This is a video on setting the gap or setting the points on a Edison Splitdorf type RM Magneto. It's off of a 1940s John Deere Model L. I'm not sure if it's the same on other tractors or something like that, but it took me forever to find the information just so that I could do it myself on my tractor. So I figured I'd make a little quick video so that if you have a tractor like this, or if you have a similar, you can at least open it up and have an idea of what you're looking at before you screw something up, because these are pretty rare and they're really expensive. If you break something trying to get it apart, you don't even, you're not sure what you're doing, or maybe there's a part that's missing and you didn't know it because it fell out. I'll show you exactly what I mean. So there's 4 screws, and of course these are for the plug wires. You just pull them out and take these 4 screws out, and I'll show you. They're that long. And there's another set on this side. They're shorter, so don't get them mixed up. If you do take this side off to look at it for whatever reason, just remember that this side, which is where the distributor rotor is the longer screws. Anyway, make sure you have a new gasket. Mine broke, and it's, I don't know, 50 years old or something, so I just made a couple new ones out of paper. It's basically more of a dust cover. At some point, if I can, I'll just get the OEM gasket on it, but for now it's just hard cardboard. There's a couple of brushes on the inside here. They are just spring loaded and they come out. So if you take this apart and it's sideways or upside down like this, a lot of times they're just going to fall out. So if you don't have a little tray or something like that to collect it, they just disappear, and the likelihood of being able to find a new set of these is pretty much impossible, and takes forever to wear out. I mean, this thing's 100 years old, and they have tons of life left in them. So if you lose it, you might be treading water. It might be pretty bad, so just be careful about it. So when I opened it up, I did a whole bunch of different things to this. I cleaned up. It had some grease in it for some reason, so I cleaned all that up. But specifically, to help myself not lose these again, I just took some needle nose and bent the last ring in, and it has a slight cup on it so that you can, so it'll clip on. I didn't actually do that, it's just how it was from the factory, but the spring wore out or whatever, so it wasn't clipping the way it was supposed to. So now it won't fall out, and you won't lose the spring, you won't lose this. And then that is just so it won't fall out of the hole. So when I take it off, because in order to set the timing on the actual tractor, you have to have this off, and it's sideways. So if you lose those in the grass or gravel or whatever, you're never gonna find it. It's gone forever. Not actually sure. I wonder if they're magnetic. Nope. The spring has hardly any magnet. It's a pretty strong magnet, so if I lose something in the grass, I can pick it up, but you'll never find this if it loses or it gets lost if you drop it. And inside for the retaining the hole for it, what do you want to call it, I did the same thing except in reverse. So I moved it out that way. It has just a little bit of grip. You push it in, step it over, shake it, and they're not going to come out. And I did the same thing for both of them. I cleaned both of them. Just took it on a light piece of like 1500 sandpaper. Just cleaned it up, brushed it off. If you have electrical parts cleaner, that's the best. You can use brake cleaner. Something that will evaporate and something that won't leave any kind of a residue. You want it to be perfectly clean. And brake parts cleaner works because it's specifically to break down any oils, so that obviously you can brake in a car, so that'll work. Anyway, you just go ahead and clean those off. and this wire goes between here and here, and it's probably, again, really old, 100 years old. So both of the connections on it, you can actually get these are fairly easy to find. It's basically just a piece of brass that has a little tab bent in it, and you make your own wire. You cut it, you splice it on there, you solder it, and then you bend these over and it grabs. If it's not grabbing enough tension, so when you push it in, it should either squeeze in or at least snap, or it should have some friction to it so that it actually has a decent connection. If it doesn't, just go ahead, bend these out slightly. It doesn't take very much, just enough that way when you seat them together, they have a decent electrical connection. Otherwise, I mean, it's like runs off a 6-volt system. That's not very much. So there can't be much of a gap between the two for it, or it won't work, or potentially won't. Either way, make sure they're clean, because they were really dirty when I got it, so or when I opened this one up, so just double check that. Okay, so setting the gap. The rotor just slides off, and don't worry about remembering which way it goes on. There's no way for it to go on except for the right way. Take this and probably clean it off. It was black when I opened this one up. Clean it off, double check it. Make sure this spring, this contact spring, is actually has some sort of tension. If it's set way down here, just out of it, and you need to bend it back out. It won't have enough tension on the contact here. So double check that. The other thing is this contact. Make sure that's actually tight. Make sure it's actually clean. It's a 1/4 inch nut, but it's also copper, so it's very weak and you could easily strip it. Don't wrench on it, and if it's not coming out, be careful with it. And any of the screws, get the right size screwdriver, because they might be seized. They've been probably sitting there for 100 years, corroding and whatnot. So just get the right size screwdriver and make sure, because otherwise you'll end up with this. Like whoever it was that messed with this before me screwed that all up, and it works, but it's loose, and if that gets all screwed up and you can't undo it, then you'll never be able to get it running. So anyway, so you go ahead and you loosen this, and you loosen this. You can see that there is a little T slot in there, so you can kind of have something to pry on. So you don't have to have it totally loose, but you can clean both. You can take this off, clean the contact on this part, and clean the contact on this one, and screw it back in. It's no big deal. Like I say, just make sure you have the right screwdriver so that you can actually get it back in and not screw yourself in the long run. Anyway, loosen these up and loosen it so that it is movable, and then just give it a little bit more of a turn until you can tap on it and do whatever, poke it, and it won't move. And then get yourself a feeler gauge at 15 thousandths. Rotate your gear, or the whole thing, one way or the other, it doesn't matter, until that opening, which you can't hardly see, until that opening is at its maximum space. It's on a little cam. You can see on this shaft, there's a flat spot and a high spot, or a low and a high spot. So once you get it to the largest opening, hold it there, take your feeler gauge, slide it in, check it. Okay, it's right on this one because I already did it, but you check it. If it's not quite right, don't loosen the screws. It'll be a pain in the ass, and you're going to be screwing with it forever. Just keep them kind of tight and use what they designed into it to change it. So you can just off of the side of the housing, just push it until it slides in, and it should take a little bit of pressure so that it doesn't easily move. Because just as soon as you go to actually tighten these down all the way, it'll canter this back and forth. So make sure that it's actually tight enough it won't move when you, so it takes enough pressure. You just want it to be able to stay still so that you can actually tighten it down and keep it where it's actually supposed to be. Anyway, if it's not quite, if it's too far, too close, slide your screwdriver in there and rotate like this using the screw head as a fulcrum. You can move it just a little bit at a time. It's very easy to do. They designed it pretty well so it's easy to get it just right. Then go ahead and tighten these down. Just be careful, tighten both of them a little bit at a time until it's just right, because otherwise, like I say, it'll canter back and forth and you'll spend a year trying to get it so it's actually centered, so the contact connects evenly. Then you're pretty much set. It's super easy, no big deal. Like I say, throw this back on. It'll only go on one way, and slide this on top, and it will once again have a little bit of pressure to get it over that hump. And you tighten these all down, just same way you do a like a car tire on the lug nuts, kind of in a little bit of a star pattern, so you don't get uneven pressure. You'll crack it, trust me. I cracked this one. And yeah, that's pretty much it.